Hi everybody, Danny Antrobus here from South Yorkshire Funding Advice Bureau, and welcome to this video in our series on fundraising for trustees. In this episode, we're talking about fundraising management. Firstly, let's take a quick look at the difference between governance and management. Governance, which we've covered in another video in this series, is your responsibility as trustees for making sure that all of your fundraising work is done properly and legally. Whereas management is the more hands-on and operational decisions you'll need to take on the detailed tasks involved in your fundraising. So under fundraising management, we're going to talk about 5 main areas: fundraising planning, monitoring and evaluation, the financial side of fundraising, fundraising skills, and risk management. So fundraising planning. So using your organisation's overall strategic or business plan, you'll have some idea of what your group's aims, outcomes and activities are, and some idea of the main projects and activities that are priorities for you over the next year or so. So from there, you can start to plan which funding sources you'll approach to fund which elements of your work. And then you can start to break that down into the main fundraising tasks involved. What's the research you need to do into possible funders and donors? Who do you need to communicate with? How are you going to set budgets, and so on. And then you can break that down a step further into a work plan. So you can set out who is responsible for doing which tasks and when they need to do them. Monitoring and evaluation. It's really worth taking some time to review your activities so that you know how well your projects and activities meet your overall mission. You need to make sure that you meet all of your funder requirements. If you have a grant for a particular piece of work, that will likely have come with some rules over how you're supposed to report back to the funder about how their money was spent. So you need to make sure that you measure what you said you were going to measure and report back in the way you said you would. And thirdly, it's worth taking some time to measure your fundraising work itself. So take some time to review your applications, work out which elements were strong and which could be improved. Where funders offer feedback on applications, it's well worth taking them up on that and building that into your future fundraising planning. And also take some time to measure the amount of time it's taking you to do particular fundraising tasks. Next is the financial side of fundraising. Along with your overall organisation's plan, you'll have some idea of your budget for the year, and therefore an idea of the amount of money and income that you need to raise to make sure that your organisation stays viable. Secondly, you need to think about how you control the use of funds. You need good financial management, good systems and good record keeping for making sure that where funds were given for a particular purpose, that you can show that's what they were spent on. And thirdly, it's worth having a think about and understanding the costs of fundraising, where you're spending your time and how that relates to your ongoing fundraising planning. Next, fundraising skills. So in managing your fundraising, you need to think about the fundraising tasks that your organisation needs to do and the skills that are involved in doing those tasks. You can then start to audit the fundraising skills you have available within your organisation across your staff, volunteers and trustees, and work out where there are gaps. And then you can start to work towards developing the fundraising skills that you need to fill those gaps. And lastly is risk management. So it's worth spending time thinking about the risks involved in your fundraising work. So that could be things like whether accepting money from a particular source would have a negative impact on your organisation's reputation, or things like whether running a community event might end up costing more than you managed to raise. So you identify those sorts of risks that are involved in your fundraising, then start to assess and estimate how serious those risks are and how likely you think they are to happen, and then think about what you would do about those risks. It's worth going through that process just to make sure that you're kind of in control of the fundraising work you want to do and you've thought carefully about the impact of it. So in summary, in managing your fundraising, you need to have a good fundraising plan and be able to measure what happens. Remember that financial management and fundraising go hand in hand. It's well worth developing the fundraising skills you need, and you need to make sure that you've managed all the risks that you face. So finally, for more information, you can go to the SciFab website, which has information sheets, our funding search database, funding news, training, advice and more, and that's at www.scifab.org.uk. And that's all for this episode. Thanks very much.